Well, welcome to Baking with Pastor Scott. We're starting this this new series this week called Home Cooking, and I'm going to make my famous Cathead cookies. Now, the first thing is important to you need to wash your hands, so we're going to do that real quick, and then we're going to jump right into it. Now, I've got the ingredients here, and so what you're going to need is you're going to need two eggs. You're going to need flour. You're going to need butter, real butter, and brown sugar. Baking chips. Now, if you want to go gluten-free, you can do gluten-free flour if you like, and the cookies taste actually pretty good. This is a good gluten-free flour, White Gull, so I don't get paid to sponsor them. Anyway, pure vanilla. Now, the Madagascar vanilla is the best, and I got this from Costco. It's good vanilla, but Mexican vanilla, even better. So if you get some of that in South Texas, do that. So pure almond extract, and of course, chocolate chips. Now, you can vary this thing, like we got some dark chocolate chips here, if you want to do dark chocolate, or my sweet wife found these confetti baking chips. So if you're like making these cookies for your grandkids or whatever, your kids, you can throw with confetti. And you see they came with dark chocolate. All you have to do if you want dark to this recipe is add some cocoa powder, and that will make them more of a chocolate robust. But we're not going to use these chips. We're going to go with the regular standard Cathead cookies. So let's get going. Let's get after it. First thing you have to do is you need to melt the butter. So you take 2 sticks of butter and you melt it. Now, I've already melted this butter ahead of time, so you want it melted. And there's a reason why. A lot of recipes call for a softened butter, but you really want your batter to be really moist and really kind of easily pliable. So that's why I melt the butter. Always melt the butter beforehand, and it helps. Now, brown sugar, and not 2 sugars. And a lot of recipes call for 2 sugars, white sugar, brown sugar. I like to use brown sugar because it gives it a more kind of a robust flavor. Now, with brown sugar, you always have to pack the sugar, and I use 1.5 cups. Now, I kind of like cookies to be a little sweeter, and so if it's not exactly 1.5 cups, it's okay. You want more than less, but that's to your preference. And you can see how precisely I'm doing things. So you take that, and then you blend the butter and the brown sugar together. Now, it's very important that you do that first because you're going to add your eggs, and when you add your eggs, you don't want the hot butter to cook your eggs. So you want to keep your butter, you want to get a chance for the butter to cool off a bit before you add your eggs. And so we add these 2 eggs. Farm fresh, right out of the chicken eggs. I guess they're right out of the chicken. You don't want them salad like out of the possum or something, but I don't think possums lay eggs, but you know, egg-laying creatures, lizards. Anyway, mix the 2 eggs and mix it well. You don't have to, there's no mixer involved, just a nice wooden spoon. This one has a silver handle, a really fancy spoon. This is my cookie spoon. And so make sure that that's creamed together nice, and you want it to have a viscosity about like that, where it's nice and smooth and silky. Then, very simply, you start adding your flour. Now, this is important you do. Typically, the recipe will call for 2.5 cups of flour. So what I do is I blend the flour in stages. I'll put in 1 cup first, and then mix that in. And it just takes a little bit of time, not a lot of time, just a little bit of stir it and mix it. And you want to make sure you scrape the sides of the bowl, make sure the flour's incorporated properly, and the batter gets a little thicker. Oh, it's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful batter. And this is where kind of, in cooking, you could do a couple of things. You could be a scientist or you can be an artist. And I prefer to be an artist. I add the 2nd cup, so that's 2 cups. So I do a lot with the batter by feel. And I'll show you what I mean in a second, because I can add 2.5 cups, and sometimes the batter is not thick enough. And the cookies spread too quickly, and you get flat, not fluffy cookies. So I think Cathead cookies should be fluffy. Now you're going, I don't see any cats. What's the Cathead? Well, I'll show you in a minute. That's a great question that shall be answered to you in a moment. So I'm going to add probably a little more, almost 3 cups. I would say 2 3/4 cups of flour, because I want the viscosity of the batter to be perfect. And I'll show you how I measure that in just a second. Now, sometimes you get a little carried away with your flour and it gets a little too thick. Well, if that happens, you just add another egg, and that will give the consistency you want. And this batter looks like it's going to turn out perfectly. And I'll show you what I mean by perfectly. You can make sure all that flour is mixed in. As the batter reaches, a tighter density, it's going to require a little more muscle in your mixing. So this could be also an aerobic exercise. That's what I tell my sweet Tara, that I'm practicing aerobic exercising. Okay, then you want to add a little bit of almond extract. Now this is kind of the magic juice, the almond extract, and just a scotch of that. And you see how I was measured so much, and then some vanilla extract. We add the vanilla extract, and I like vanilla flavor. Now the almond kind of enhances the whole kind of cookie process, the taste of the cookie, brings it out, gives it a little more nutty flavor. It's almonds, by the way. And so you want to mix that up real well. If you don't mix your almond and your vanilla extract properly, you'll get spots of bitterness in your cookie. So most of the time when I'm mixing this, before I add the flour, I'll put the flavorings in. But I didn't do that this time because I forgot. But anyway, it'll be fine. And we mix it together. Now here's where the art comes in. Now remember, I wash my hands, and I wash my hands for a reason. It's because this is a very hands-on thing. You want to pick up the dough, and you want the dough to be pliable, and that's where, and I'll show you shaping the cookie. So it's a nice little dough ball that doesn't leave dough on your hands, but it comes apart pretty easy. So, and that's really important in making these cookies, because that's going to turn out the way you want it. Then we add the chocolate chips. It's very important to specifically measure the chocolate chips. And you see how I did that. That was very scientific. You pour them in until there's a bunch of them, and then you mix it up. Now, you could say, okay, it'll take a 12-ounce bag of chips for this. This is my lovely assistant moving things out of the way. Or you can kind of measure it, feel it. At this time, if you wanted to add some other chips, you could, like the confetti chips or something else, but I want it just to be the pure chocolate chip. And so then you get a nice cookie dough. And you see how that's all beautifully incorporated. It's very important that you reward the cameraman with the spoon, but our cameraman is gluten intolerant, so he doesn't get the spoon. This is important about your cookie. So you take a nice dip of the dough, and then you're going to form your cookie with the circle in your hand. And what happens is that the cookies then take on a really uniform shape. Now this is an ungreased cooking sheet, so you don't need to grease your pan because there's like a half a pound of butter in this recipe, so that would, if you got a half a pound of butter, you don't need any more grease, you got plenty. And so you start laying them out on the cookie sheet. Rolling, trying to keep them in the consistency of size, and it's mainly by feel. Now when these cookies cook, they're going to be nice and thick and chewy on the outside, and soft in the middle, which is what you want. Kind of like me, I'm soft in the middle, crusty on the outside. No comments. But here's the deal about mixing cookies, and this is important kind of in our conversation for today. All these wonderful ingredients that are randomly put together, intentionally put together, create something delicious. And as we talk about home cooking and what makes us a family, and we jump into the book of Ephesians, we're going to talk about the things that bring us together that makes church, us as the people of God, a family of God. And the biggest thing is unity. Different varieties, different measurements, things go into these cookies, these Cathead cookies, which will create something delicious, is what God uses as he puts this together into a family called the church. Now remember, the church is a family. It's not an organization or an institution. It's a movement started by God, for the people of God, for the glory of God, to bring heaven on earth. Now, heaven will never really exist on earth, but what we can do, just like with these cookies, we're going to give you a taste of heaven as we learn to live in unity. So today we'll start with Ephesians chapter 4, verses 1 and following, and we are going to look at what makes us a family, just like what makes us make Cathead Cookies. And this is probably getting too long in the tooth, but I'm sure we will edit it down to proper size. So the cookies are going to spread just a bit as they cook, as they have a prone to do. And here's the last one. We want to get all the goodie we can, and just like what makes us make Cathead Cookies. And this is probably getting too long in the tooth, but I'm sure we will edit it down to proper size. So the cookies are going to spread just a bit as they cook, as they have a prone to do. And here's the last one. We want to get all the goodie we can, and just like what makes us make Cathead Cookies. And this is probably getting too long in the tooth, but I'm sure we will edit it down to proper size. So the cookies are going to spread just a bit as they cook, as they have a prone to do. And here's the last one. We want to get all the goodie we can, and just like what makes us make Cathead Cookies. And this is probably getting too long in the tooth, but I'm sure we will edit it down to proper size. So the cookies are good. It's at home. The recipe will be on the website, or we'll send out an email, and you can enjoy these anytime you want to. Remember, you can put whatever chip in it you want, but it's all about the unity of the confection, just like the unity of the family in the church, all for Jesus, because God is making us family in home cooking.